Welcome to Truman's Town Hall with your host, Matt Truman.
Hello, everybody. I haven't opened up the podcast with the opening when I've been doing the impeachment inquiry. So we're going to go live here. We're going to go back live and listen to the Republican counsel. The Republicans' attorney will receive 45 minutes to question the witness, who is Ambassador Sondland, and we'll go to that right now.
The gentlemen, for those of you watching at home, that was not a bathroom break. That was actually a chance for the Democrats to go out and hold a press conference, Ambassador, for all the supposed bombshells that were in your opening testimony. I want to get back to the facts of the matter here. And the thing that the Democrats have been unwilling to accept is that their operatives got campaign dirt from Ukrainians in the 2016 election. Now, they know it. They know it's true because we have financial records that show it. So the Democrats were heavily involved working with Ukrainians to dirty up the Trump campaign in 2016. So, Ambassador, I want to go through just a few of the incidents that we know. I know you may not know all about them. You may know about them now. But I want to walk through some of those examples of why the president may be very upset with Ukraine and think that they're a country that's out to get him, as I think both you've said that and Ambassador Volker have said that from that May 23rd meeting. The first question I have is, were you aware of the anti-Trump efforts by DNC operative Alexandra Chalupa?
I'm not aware of it.
So in 2000, there was a 2017 article that also quotes a Ukrainian parliamentarian, Artemenko, saying, quote, "It was clear that they were supporting," meaning Ukraine, "supporting Hillary Clinton's candidacy, and they did everything from organizing meetings with the Clinton team to publicly supporting her to criticizing Trump. I think that they simply didn't meet with the Trump campaign because they thought Hillary would win." Do you know that Ukrainian official by any chance that stated that? Were you aware that then Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S., Chalet, wrote an op-ed in The Hill during the 2016 presidential campaign criticizing then candidate Trump?
Not aware.
But you know that now in the last few months.
Correct.
So probably one of the more disturbing ones is the Ukraine Internal Affairs Minister, Avakov, mocked and disparaged then candidate Trump on Facebook and Twitter. Were you aware that Serhiy Leshchenko, a Ukrainian parliamentarian, admitted that part of his motivation in spreading the information about the so-called Black Ledger, a disputed document purporting to reveal corruption by a former Trump campaign official, was to undermine the Trump candidacy?
I wasn't aware.
So you may be familiar, the Black Ledger was used in the 2016 election to dirty up a campaign associate, and later Mueller didn't use that as evidence in his report on election meddling. So knowing all these facts from high-ranking Ukrainian officials, Ambassador, probably makes a little more sense now as to why the president may think that there's problems with Ukraine and that Ukraine was out to get him. Is that correct?
I understand your point. Yes, Chairman.
Because you said in your deposition, and I'm just going to make sure this was just read it back to you, on page 279 for your legal team. Quote, "They are all corrupt." This is what you said about your conversation with the president. So this is your words about what the president told you.
This is the May 23rd meeting?
That's correct. "They are all corrupt. They are all terrible people, and I don't want to spend any time with that." And he also said, "They tried to take me down."
That's correct.
When they tried to take him down, I think any logical person that wants to do 2 + 2 = 4 games would say that was in the 2016 election, wasn't it?
I believe that's what he was referring to. Yes,
right.
Ranking member.
So during all this time, and remember, in the spring, the Democrats' Russia hoax witch hunt is still ongoing. They're still claiming that President Trump is a Russian agent. They're out to get President Trump at the time. His personal attorney is then interested in trying to figure out, okay, who are these Ukrainians that are trying to get to my candidate? As those of us, the Republicans on this committee, who are also trying to get to the bottom of who were the sources in the Steele dossier that the Democrats had paid for. The House Republicans wanted to know that all through the spring and even the summer and even as of today, we'd still like to know. That's why we've subpoenaed the DNC operatives that they refused to subpoena. We sent a letter this morning. I doubt we'll see those subpoenas. We want to know exactly, get to the bottom of it, exactly who were these Democratic operatives that were dirtying up the Trump campaign in 2016. And they just can't get over that the president would send his personal attorney over there to try to get to the bottom of that. And Ambassador, you had very few dealings with Rudy Giuliani, a few text messages.
A few text messages and a few phone calls.
Right. So the whistleblower trying to put together here with their timeline, they seem to have a timeline problem because the whistleblower that only they know, who they won't subpoena, who clearly Mr. Vindman knows, who they blocked testimony yesterday from and would not allow Mr. Vindman to answer our questions. That whistleblower says on July 25th that there were all these promises being made. Yet I forget what they call it, the drug deal that the three amigos were cooking up seems to be their latest. You're part of the three amigos in the drug deal, Ambassador. Were you aware of any drug deal on July 25th when the phone call actually occurred?
I don't know about any drug deal.
Right. And did you know you were part of the three amigos?
I am. I'm a proud part of the three amigos.
And that's the same thing Ambassador Volker said yesterday. Because by the time the phone call that supposedly the whistleblower claims was the original quid pro quo, has now got down to, we're now a month later where you're involved, and their quid pro quo has gotten down to the low level of, well, they want a statement. And you didn't even know about anything to do with, on July 25th, you knew nothing about military aid being withheld.
I knew military aid was withheld beginning, I believe, on July 18th when Ambassador Taylor told both of us that was the case.
But you don't know about, you were not on the July 25th call.
I was not.
Where the aid doesn't come up at all.
Again, I just read the readout when everyone else did.
Well, we've had everybody's testified that was on the July 25th call, that there was no aid discussed on the July 25th call. So then you're in the process. You have no idea that this is tied to Burisma or anybody else. You say you don't realize that until the end of August.
I didn't realize that aid was tied. The Burisma in 2016 piece was much earlier, Ranking Member.
I'm glad you bring up Burisma, because this is another issue that the Democrats don't want to go into. They refused to call in Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden to get to the bottom of all of this. He could come in and talk about whether or not it was appropriate for him to receive over $50,000 a month while his dad was vice president. And when they actually were able to stop and get an investigator fired, they could call in Hunter Biden, but they don't want to do it. But let's talk about Burisma, Ambassador. I know you're the ambassador of the EU, and I think some of the members later will get into whether or not it was appropriate for you to be in Ukraine or not. I believe it was. I think you have a clear mandate to do it. But you wouldn't be the first ambassador to actually be interested in Burisma. Did you know that in September 2015, then ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt, publicly called for an investigation into Slavitsky, the president of Burisma? This was the Ukrainian ambassador appointed by President Obama in Ukraine.
I wasn't aware of that, no.
You were not aware of it?
No.
So you would not be the first one to be mentioning that investigations should be done on Burisma because it happened during the Obama administration. Did you know that financial records show Burisma routed more than $3 million to the American accounts tied to Hunter Biden?
I did not know that.
Did you know that Burisma's American lawyers tried to secure a meeting with the new state prosecutor the same day his predecessor Victor Shokin, who the vice president wanted fired, was announced?
Did not know that.
Well, we're not going to get to the answer to many of these questions because the witnesses that need to come in and clarify exactly what the Democrats were doing in 2016, we're not going to be able to visit with those witnesses. And so it's an inconvenient truth that the Democrats don't want to admit. They're operatives that were dirtying up the Trump campaign using Ukrainian sources in 2016, and they do not want us to get to the bottom of it. They don't want you, Ambassador, to get to the bottom of it. They don't want the president's personal attorney, even though he's under a special counsel investigation that they fed into the FBI, that we've dealt with for over 3 years. They don't want to get to the bottom of that, Ambassador. I think Mr. Castro has some questions for you.
Thank you, Mr. Nunez. Good morning, Ambassador. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Castor.
Welcome back. You're here all day on the 17th, late into the night, so thank you for your cooperation with the investigation. Did the president ever tell you personally about any preconditions for anything?
No.
Okay, so the president never told you about any preconditions for the aid to be released?
No.
The president never told you about any preconditions for a White House meeting?
Personally, no.
You said you didn't have your records or your documents from the State Department, but if you did, there wouldn't be any document or record that ties President Trump personally to any of this, correct?
Boy, I don't want to speculate what would be...
your documents or records.
I don't recall anything like that.
Okay.
No.
Good heavens. Okay. You testified Mr. Giuliani's requests for a quid pro quo for the White House meeting. And you indicated that you believe he was evincing President Trump's interests, correct?
My contact with Mr. Giuliani began, as I said, very late in the process, after August 1st, when I was first introduced to him by a text from Ambassador Volker. So we had already begun those discussions, I believe, with the Ukrainians prior to August 1st, so everything was being funneled through others, including Mr. Volker.
Okay. But you testified that Mr. Giuliani was expressing the desires of the president, correct?
That's our understanding, yes.
But how did you know that? Who told you?
Well, when the president says, talk to my personal attorney, and then Mr. Giuliani, as his personal attorney, makes certain requests or demands, we assume it's coming from the president. I'm not testifying that I heard the president tell Mr. Giuliani to tell us, so if that's your question.
Right, but at your deposition, you said the question was at the May 23rd meeting when the president said, go talk to Rudy. You responded, he didn't even say go talk. He said, talk to Rudy. You subsequently said it was sort of like, I don't want to talk about this. So it wasn't an order or a direction to go talk with Mr. Giuliani, correct?
Our conclusion, and the conclusion of the three of us, was that if we did not talk to Rudy, nothing would move forward on Ukraine.
Okay. And then that was May 23rd, and then you never had any personal communications with Giuliani until August, right?
That's correct.
And Volker was handling, Ambassador Volker was
Volker,
primary...
Volker, Perry, and others.
Okay. Ambassador Volker, you testified he's a professional diplomat, correct?
Yes, he is.
And you said you had a great relationship with him?
I do, yes.
You said he was a very smart guy?
Yes.
Ambassador Ivanovich said he's a brilliant diplomat, in fact. You agree with that?
He's pretty smart.
You stated that he's one of those people I'd hand my wallet to?
I would.
And so, did you hear his testimony yesterday?
I did not.
Okay, because
I was busy getting ready for you.
He didn't have any